I'm absolutely buzzing off the White Monster right now. Now that April has begun, we are about to approach NFL draft season, which, if you don't know, means the NFL draft season, which means the NFL off season, and then that's going to roll you right into summer. And you're going to be drafting your fantasy football leagues, or at least preparing. So the moral of the story, what I'm trying to say is, start preparing now for fantasy football, because before you know it, it's going to be here. Which is why today's video, if you could see by the title, is all about rookie rankings for dynasty formats. Before you know it, a lot of these prospects are going to have teams, and we're going to have an idea of where they're going to go. But for now, we don't know what teams they're going to go to. So right now, enjoy my rankings of players that I have no idea what team they're going to go to yet. Roll the intro. And now we're back over on Tier Maker. I will put, again, the link to this Tier Maker in the description below if you at home want to participate, want to show me your rankings. But now, let's get into the rankings. Starting off with S tier, I feel there's only one player that's actually S tier, and that is Ashton GT. It feels kind of like a waste to put one player in the S tier, but this one player is significantly better in the Dynasty format than these other players. When we talk about an absolute cornerstone piece in Dynasty, that's what Ashton GT is for at least the next 4 to 5 years. Every other prospect in this draft cannot guarantee the production for a 4 to 5 year stretch that Ashton GT can provide, so he finds himself in S tier for that reason. Let's follow it up with the A tier, the more realistic players you're going to get, because if you don't have the 101, you are not getting Ashton GT. So with that, let's go A tier, Emeka Egbuka, and I know a lot of people want Ted McMillan in this next tier of best wide receiver and best player after GT, position-wise, obviously, but I just don't see it. I think Emeka Egbuka is a much better wide receiver. Obviously, it depends on what team he goes to. Can he live up to that A tier, or would he be lower, like A minus, B plus? But in terms of skill and what he could provide to an NFL offense right away, Emeka Egbuka is probably going to be the best wide receiver to come out of this draft, or at least that's just my opinion. So for that, I have to have him in A tier. I understand I didn't have him in the Dynasty wide receiver rankings. I know that would probably confuse viewers. Why would I have him higher than all the other wide receivers if I don't actually have him ranked the top in Dynasty? And the reason for that is just the uncertainty of what team he's going to go to. But in terms of looking at all these players as prospects individually, Emeka Egbuka is an A-tier prospect. And so is Omarion Hampton. He's going to be the consolation prize if you can't get Ashton GT, and I feel it's going to be a lot like the year where if you couldn't get Bijan Robinson, you got Jahmyr Gibbs, because Omarion Hampton is dynamic. He can take over a backfield right away, and I cannot wait to see what he does in the NFL. Following that up, A minus tier. One guy, some would call him my golden child. Some would just call him Golden, because that's his last name. Matthew Golden from Texas. I personally am a huge fan of Matthew Golden and what he could provide. If I knew what team he was going to, maybe it would make it a little easier in terms of can I put him in A or does he go a little lower. But for right now, as a prospect itself, and in terms of what he can do on a football field right away and for years to come, I really like the idea of drafting Matthew Golden in rookie drafts. He is super talented, can place him on any team, can run any route, very smooth in and out of his breaks. I am a big fan of Matthew Golden. I am the Matthew Golden fanboy, and that's how we're going to leave it. He is in the A- tier, alone with no one else. Now, here comes Ted McMillan, here at B+. Before I put anybody else here, just want to say, I know I had him ranked in Dynasty, or not over Matthew Golden, but, in my video, and he's the third guy here. The thing is, I'm personally not so high on Ted McMillan. And again, I know I had him in my rankings. Have to respect the potential of what could be. I just don't think that when he steps on the field right away in 2025, he's going to be a better wide receiver than any of the guys I ranked above him in Emeka Egbuka and Matthew Golden. So for that reason, Ted McMillan finds himself in the B+ tier with the other wide receivers that have potential to be good in the NFL. Of course, depends on where they get drafted. That's a big thing with wide receivers. Where do they get stuck for their careers? Are they going to make the best of it? Who knows? Following Ted, we have Luther Burden III, Travion Henderson, running back. The next running back off the board, I personally think that he is maybe just one tier below of Amari and Hampton, but in terms of all of the prospects and how much I like Matthew Golden kind of right in between Tet McMillan and Emeka Egbuka, he finds himself in this B plus tier, arguably A minus. He's just right under Amari and Hampton in terms of skill. He's a very, very good runner. And lastly, Quinshon Judkins. Another really powerful runner, can absolutely dominate as soon as he gets drafted into the league. I think he's a very interesting, if you're in the middle of the first round or back end of the first round, you see Judkins available. Definitely should draft him, definitely pick him up. It's worth the upside. That's probably the best bet in terms of rookie drafts. This tier list is basically based off of the absolute potential and the upside of these players. So Quinshon Judkins, considering the upside, considering the player profile, he finds himself in this B tier as well. Now let's move on to the B tier. Now I wish I knew how many offensive snaps Travis Hunter would have. But because I don't, and because I really have to rank him somewhere, he can't be unranked on this list, he finds himself in the B tier, and I would assume that someone as talented as him, playing wide receiver, we'll say, not half the time, we'll say 40% of the time. Travis Hunter, 40% of the time as a wide receiver in Dynasty, has the potential to be a B prospect. Of course, if he played every snap, we could easily argue that he's somewhere here or here, and I have no problem with that. But because he is a corner going into the draft, we don't know how many snaps he's going to play on offense. B feels like the best spot to put him. Maybe I'm being a little too safe with Travis Hunter, but B tier feels like the best spot to put him. And it's been a while since we put a quarterback here, so let's put his teammate Shedeur Sanders in this B tier as well. If you need a quarterback, you can take him. Maybe not the best option. Maybe you'll want to take Cam Ward instead, who I have in the same tier. I feel like one, in terms of fantasy, is probably not going to be drastically better than the other, unless one gets drafted to a way better spot, which kind of makes them why they're so even, because obviously Cam Ward is going to be drafted first, but Shedeur might fall in the draft. So him going to a better spot and a better team kind of makes their value very similar, in my opinion. So that's how they both find themselves here. I'm also going to put Colston Loveland in this list. He is my first tight end that I am going to rank as the best in this class, in my opinion. I'm not so high on Tyler Warren. We'll get to that in a moment. He is coming up. He's not in this tier. And the last person that is in this tier, though, is Jaden Higgins. Another wide receiver. This class is filled with talented wide receivers. Jaden Higgins, we talked about him a lot during the Senior Bowl. You can watch that video if you haven't watched it. Jaden Higgins, super talented player, and so is his teammate that we'll also get into in the next tier. So let's just start by grabbing Jalen Noel and Tyler Warren and start the B tier, just B minus tier, just like that. Let's start with Tyler Warren. Obviously, a super freak athlete. Can place him anywhere all over the field. Been watching a lot of videos on social media. If you don't follow Coach Dan Casey, make sure you give him a follow. He does a lot of film breakdown and videos on social media. Tyler Warren can be placed all over the field, is very dynamic, but all of that value is only great if it's used to its max potential. And what I mean by that is, it's great that he can be a running back, fullback. He can throw passes. He can run these different routes and be part of trick plays and catch passes off of screens and just run after the catch like a running back or some sort. He's very shifty in the open field. If he's not being used like that in the NFL, none of that will matter. I understand we like to think of the potential when rookies come in. Unfortunately, he is a really good tight end, but you cannot guarantee that he's going to be this joker role wherever he gets drafted. These NFL teams have their own play callers in mind that want to run their own plays, and they're not going to draft Tyler Warren and change their whole entire offense to fit Tyler Warren. If he gets drafted in a better position for himself, I don't see Sean Payton drafting him, signing Evan Ingram. But if he were to be put in a better spot, sure, B plus tier is fair for Tyler Warren. Maybe he's better than Colston Loveland then at that point. But in terms of the prospect themselves, I think Colston Loveland is a better tight end for fantasy than Tyler Warren. Tyler Warren might play more. Tyler Warren might be used more as a joker piece in an offense or whatever. But if he's not getting the absolute most out of it, if he's not getting receptions, he's not getting carries or touchdowns, it doesn't mean much. Jalen Noel, another fantastic wide receiver. It was hard to decide who I wanted to rank over the other between Higgins and Noel. Higgins is slightly better, but there really isn't that much that Noel can't do. Very good vertical deep threat. Depending on where he ends up going, he could end up being better than his B- tier, but for now, B- felt the most safe. being that we don't know where any of these guys are going. Now let's talk about another one of my favorites, Devin Neal. Devin Neal's a phenomenal running back. He's twitchy, but has just enough bulk or kind of like build to him where he's not going to go down easy. You're going to have to tackle. You're going to have to make sure you tackle his legs because he's going to go right through you. He's a very, very smooth, swift runner. They call him Sweet Feet Devin Neal for a reason. This guy is extremely talented. He does have some flaws in terms of can he be an every down back in the NFL. In terms of my evaluation of him, I'm not so sure yet. But given the opportunity, he has a chance to be special, and that's why he finds himself in this tier. And finally, a very popular favorite before the Senior Bowl and in the playoffs, Cam Scatterbo. Scatterbo is another one, has great potential, can find himself an interesting role, especially in fantasy where catching passes out of the backfield in PPR is very valuable. Cam Scatterbo does deserve to have some sort of rank in terms of one of the best rookies to be drafted. And if you're looking for upside, you're chasing upside, this guy has it. Whether he ends up being a return man, whether he ends up moving from return man to a third down back or a 2-minute drill guy and building into a full-time starter role, that is possible for Cam Scatterbo, so that's why he's in this tier as well. And finally, for the rest of the guys here, these are all going to be my C+. We'll just go one by one as I drag them over, and we'll start talking about Ollie Gordon here. Very skilled runner. His production leaves a lot to be desired in terms of, yes, he has the quick burst. Yes, he can run the outside zone run. But a lot of these guys can do that in this draft class, and there's not that much that separates him otherwise. He feels like he's more of a scheme fit. RJ Harvey. RJ Harvey is another interesting prospect. Instead of focusing more on the outside zone, he's more of an inside zone. Has that burst of speed, can definitely run and find his way into end zones, making big play after big play. Has the speed, has the ability, but leaves more to be desired in terms of being a pass catcher, which is his flaw in terms of being great at the next level. I wonder if that's something that RJ Harvey can actually work on, or if it's going to be the reason that he doesn't end up being anything more than just a backup running back. Caleb Johnson. Caleb Johnson's very interesting, has a patient style of running. Reminds me a lot, and this comparison is thrown around a lot, of Bucky Irving in terms of has a high motor, is tough to take down at times. Not so much has flaws as the rest of the class. Maybe he should even be in B- tier. Caleb Johnson is incredible. He is extremely talented. Has like I said, vision that really only comes at the elite level. So it'll be interesting to see what Caleb Johnson does in his NFL career. He's probably more of a B- than a C+ tier. That's my bad. Now we have Alec Iamaner. Iamaner was I feel like the best way to kind of explain is sort of like a Michael Pittman Jr., taller kind of receiver, but has the ability to just, I don't want to say make tough catches, but make the tough contested catches. It's not so much acrobatic stuff, but absolutely gets the job done and knows where to find his open space, 10 to 15 yards from the line of scrimmage. That's where he excels. I don't believe he's as dynamic as the other players. That's kind of why he finds himself a tier below a guy like Jalen Noel. Now, Jackson Dart. Obviously, this could be the dark horse, sort of like Bo Nix, where it ends up being a really good pick for you. But for the time being, and we don't know what team he's going to, Jackson Dart is just a solid prospect at best. Really no reason to believe that there's any superstar or Pro Bowl potential in Jackson Dart. But he is a quarterback. If you need a quarterback, you can take the chance on him. There's probably not much of a high ceiling, but he does have a rocket for an arm, so that does make it an interesting prospect or an interesting draft choice if you're in the second round or later looking for something with upside. Jalen Royals is another one if you're looking for upside later on in the draft. He is another wide receiver that's kind of ranked all over the place. I don't see him as much of a dominant receiver as a Jalen Noel or even a Jaden Higgins, but he usually finds himself somewhere in that tier for what it's worth. In my tier list, however, though, finding himself here at C+, with a guy that has similar kind of skills and traits to him like an Alec Iamaner. Jack Besh finds himself here. We talked a lot about him in the Senior Bowl videos. If you haven't watched those, I'll plug it again. Go check it out. Jack Besh is an interesting wide receiver. Doesn't have the size or the frame of an NFL caliber player, but has that absolute dog in him, and I got to put him in that C+ tier just for that kind of trait. He's a hard worker. He may just carve out a career for himself being that kind of, blue-collar, blue-chip guy at wide receiver, and maybe he's a full-time slot guy. We'll just have to wait and see. Isaiah Bond, someone that's not a full-time slot receiver by any means. A very dynamic, talented wide receiver. Not that I found many flaws in his game, but again, just felt that he deserved to be in a tier more along guys like Jalen Royals, Alec Iamaner, and Jack Besh. So with that, Isaiah Bond finds himself here. Definitely has potential to be better, but Matthew Golden is the Texas wide receiver you want to have, in my opinion. And finally, my wild card, somebody that not a lot of content creators talk about, Mason Taylor, tight end from LSU. Yes, we got another tight end in here, a sleeper tight end that your league mates definitely aren't on the radar of. Mason Taylor is a dog. He absolutely shined in the Senior Bowl. That was a player that maybe I just scratched the surface of or barely talked about. But when watching him over that weekend, or week, I should say, he was incredible. He was dominating one-on-ones. He looked really strong. He's definitely somebody that can block right away. He can find himself a starting role if drafted to the right team. And whether you like it or not, tight ends the last 2 seasons, the tight end ones have been rookies. So if you want to be ahead of the curve, you want to try to absolutely play for upside, I think Mason Taylor is that kind of player that, if he gets in the right situation, could finish as a really good starting fantasy tight end. That would be the ceiling for him, but otherwise, given not the most incredible athlete by any means, and the prospect as a whole, he finds himself in the C+ tier as well. And that's going to wrap it up for my Dynasty tier list video. Just want to say, if you stuck around and watched this entire video, thank you so much for watching. I truly appreciate it. It means the absolute world to me. If you're new here and you like fantasy football content, make sure you subscribe down below. We do videos like this all the time, and if you like these kinds of videos where I rank in tier lists, you can check out some of the other videos on my channel. And if you've been subscribed, you know the drill. You're Outlier Militia. Thank you so much. Make sure you smash that like button for your boy. And that's going to wrap it up for us today. Kind of running out of tier list idea videos. So if any of you at home watching have anything that you want to see or any ranking ideas that you would like to see, make sure you leave those in the comments down below. And as always, my name is Turtle, this is Outlier Fantasy, and I will see you in the next video.